Welcome everybody. I hope you can all hear me clearly. And can I just say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, as we have people joining us from all around the time zones. I'm enormously grateful that you can join us today. Back in 2017, we held a meeting in Zhou in Switzerland to begin the discussions about how the faiths could become far more active as investors, ethical investors, faith-consistent investors in the world economy. And we were delighted to have with us two remarkable people. The first was Cardinal Turkson, the head of a whole new dicastery, a whole new ministry within the Vatican, dedicated to the promotion of the integrity of human development, a major new ministry within the Catholic Church. And he laid down a challenge to us, to the religious representatives there, many of them fund managers from around the world. And he said, do you know, when I was Archbishop of Ghana, I wanted to have a program that I could give to every single one of my dioceses to help train a team within each diocese to be the most entrepreneurial people in the country. I wanted to move from a reliance on charity and aid and development to a position in which many of the projects that we were already supporting as the Catholic Church could actually be earning their own money because they were a successful business. But to do that, he said, I need a program that will help Catholic bishops, Catholic leaders, Catholic lay people to understand why within our faith, it is absolutely fine. In fact, it's excellent to be entrepreneurs, but not just entrepreneurs, but to be environmental entrepreneurs, green entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs working for the environment, for sustainability and for development. And he threw this challenge down to us. Now, at that meeting, we also had Ervin from UNDP, who is waving at you now and will be speaking towards the end. And Jamie's response was one of the most dramatic I've ever had in my life, because it was the last day and it was coffee break on the last day. And she came up to me and she said, we will help develop a faith-based green entrepreneurship program. She said, I'm going now, but I'll promise you that we will develop this, this program. So off she rushed. And I thought, well, you know, I've worked with the UN for a long time. Maybe this is just a nice idea. No, if you work with Jamie, you know that there are no such things as just nice ideas. They become actual action. And this is what has led to the faith lens on the Green Entrepreneurship Program, the MOOC, the Massive Open Online Course that will start next week, November the 2nd, on the UNDP website. And so we began a conversation and a program, and it led initially, of course, to Cardinal Turkson at the Vatican. And Cardinal Turkson said, I think this is a fantastic idea, wonderful idea. And he said, I'll tell you who you need to work on this. And we said, who? And he said, you need to get Lorna from Ireland, who's already done so much research work and practical work in this area. Get her on board. So we did. We made him the life president of the Laudato Si Entrepreneurship Program. And the first program to be developed was by Lorna with John Mundell, with Jean-Pierre Schwertz, and with colleagues from FaithInvest. I'm the head of FaithInvest. You'll hear a little bit about that as we go through. And then we began to reach out to others. And our next group that we went out to was to Hinduism. And that was to Jayshree Balachander, who has been involved with us in the Green Pilgrimage India program for many years. And I will be introducing each of them in more detail as we go through. And she worked with colleagues from the American Hindu Federation, as well as with Bhumi Global, the big Hindu environmental organization. She worked on developing the Hindu MOOC, the lens, the Hindu MOOC. And then we moved to our colleagues in China. And I've had the great joy of working with Dr. Zhou Jinfeng and with Linda Wong for many years. Huge admiration for the work that they do and the risks that they take to protect the environment in China. And also their deep and profound engagement, understanding and wisdom within the Chinese traditions. And so together, we've been able to create a Chinese traditions lens, which covers Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism. And all of this goes live on the 2nd of November. And this is really a chance for you to find out more that lies behind this unique experiment between the UN and the major faiths. And so without any more ado, I shall pass you on to the video that has been produced, the UNDP Learning for Nature video.
The 21st century has seen unprecedented improvements in human well-being. But these gains in economic growth, mostly driven by unsustainable consumption and production, have eroded the world's seemingly endless natural resources. Today, critical levels of carbon dioxide, unprecedented plastic pollution, record deforestation rates, and alarming losses in biodiversity show that we are exceeding the planet's capacity to sustain such economic growth. To continue to prosper as a planet, we must urgently transform our relationship with nature, including how we produce and consume goods. By creating new businesses, we can catalyze new models where human development and enterprise can exist in harmony with nature. Do you have a green business idea that you would like to bring to life? In a 6-week course on green entrepreneurship, you will generate, test, and refine your idea for a green business. You will transform your idea into a viable business plan. The moment for green entrepreneurs is now. Are you ready? Help us start a green circular economy movement. Register today.
So that's what this is about. And the faith lens is an opportunity for faith communities to consider moving from a traditional position where we have largely given grants or donations or charity to support projects, women's cooperatives, farmers groups, whatever it is. This is a chance to really move forward and to change how we do this, to give, in fact, far greater and longer term security to the people who are running these projects. And that's what we focused on, is to look at how from these great faiths, from Catholicism and more broadly also from Christianity, therefore, from the great Hindu traditions of India, and now also from the Chinese traditions, how can these enrich our understanding of why this is not just a good idea, it may actually be the most faith-consistent thing we can do. So we will start with the Chinese traditions. And for that, I am immensely grateful to have two very, very beloved colleagues here, Dr. Zhou Jinfeng, who is the Secretary General of the China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation. He's been that for many years. They are a major group that actually takes to court companies and groups that pollute in China. He is also an executive committee member of the Club of Rome and the vice chairman of the World Green Design Organization. And he was previously the vice chairman of the Beijing Chamber of Commerce, a member of the Standing Committee of the All China Federation on Industry and Commerce, and the vice chairman of the China Vocational Education Association. And I understand, Dr. Zhou, you are also on a new group created to look at green entrepreneurship right across China. And you're joined by Linda Wong, the Deputy Secretary General of CBC GDF, Senior Advisor to GLOCON, the Agri-Tech Co-Initiative Institute, a member of IUCN Species Survival Committee, and Green Criminology Specialist Group, who graduated from the Philosophy Department of Peking University, the Cambridge, as I would put it, of China. And her main area has been working with environmental ethics, biodiversity conservation, corporate social responsibility and ESG, as well as mobilizing communities and indigenous peoples' engagement in environmental governance. She advocates the Green Consumption Rights and Green Meeting Index in efforts to implement the SDGs. She also co-launched the Wildlife-Free e-commerce initiative during this COVID crisis. So it is with great delight that I hand over to our colleagues in China. Dr. Zhou, over to you.
Thank you. And first, I'll have my colleague Linda to introduce her part.
Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Wang from China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation, CBCGDF. It's China's largest and independent NGO dedicated to biodiversity conservation and development foundation, green development. We are also China's leading association, academic association in the area of biodiversity. Thanks, Dr. Martin Palmer and the FaithInvest and UNDP and all of you to make this, to bring this opportunity for us to learn and to share. So today's I'm going to share my PPT with Dr. Zhou in 50 minutes. Please notify me if I use too much time. I will finish this my presentation in 10 minutes. So today my topic is a taster for the Chinese tradition. In China, most commonly used concept is 和 in Chinese. It means harmony. It also means peace and diversity, inclusiveness. This is the major Chinese tradition. Just like the great rivers of China, our culture highlights the inclusiveness. In China, well, we have three major schools of thoughts, which is the Ruism, which is also called Confucianism, and Buddhism and Taoism. These two pictures was taken back 20 years ago. And I would like to introduce you a story of the Guangcai course for entrepreneurs. It was founded in 1994. Today, 26 years later, this project has been successfully lifted more than 20 million people out of poverty. It was launched by Dr. Zhou, who was a very successful businessman, but he believes green, the CSR, corporate social responsibility is very important for entrepreneurs. So he started to call for all entrepreneurs to join this poverty lifting project. At first, not many people think high of this, but today, 20 years later, you can see many successful Chinese businessmen were those who joined this cause. Because of their responsibility, their business became successful too, and they receive respect from people and from the society. Today, we are in a time of ecological civilization. As Martin just mentioned, the way our economic group cannot sustain itself. We have to change. We have to transform the way what we do in the past, and we need to adopt to a new code of development. So we believe this is very important for today's businessmen, entrepreneurs to transform proactively to make a huge difference. Today, our society all the people around the globe are facing climate crisis, biodiversity loss crisis, as well as, especially this year, the COVID-19, which brought all of us a big lesson. We need to change. This is Buddhism. As the picture show, it believes all life is equal on the earth. And there was a famous story says that the Buddha would like to sacrifice his own flesh to feed the wildlife. He believes we are live in harmony with the nature. We are part of the nature. This has become a very important spiritual source of Chinese tradition. And today you can even see a lot of phenomena based on this value. As long as Taoism, it highlights nature. As just the video showed that we learn from nature and we learn for nature. This picture was a famous wild lands in suburb Beijing, but this year, for example, it was facing a big development project in the name of building a new wetland park. But we found it very problematic. We asked them to stop this project. We think we need to follow the nature. It was so rich in biodiversity, but according to its development plan, it will lost most of them. So this is problematic. So when we are doing things today, we are develop our economy and city planning. What shall we do? I believe Taoism tell us some good lessons. We should resort to the old traditions to find new inspiration. According to Ruism, or which is also called Confucianism, the humanitarianism is a very, very core idea. It's like golden mean for China. 2,000 years ago, there was a famous scholar whose name was Dong Zhongshu. He under his influences, this core concept becomes the main idea and the main spiritual concept to the Chinese culture, and it has become leading thoughts in China. What is humanitarianism? The core idea tells us we need to love people, love others. If you don't want something, don't impose it to others. Since the famous scholar Dong, this idea has become the golden mean for all gentlemen, all those who are educated. For example, if you want to be a government official, you have to follow all this ethical code. And even in old times, if you want to do business, you want to get respect, you have to stick to these rules.
Linda, just about another minute for you and then to Dr. Zhou.
Sure. And this is righteousness in action. It's also a golden mean for Chinese culture. And this is an example on how we stop the pollution from the source. Dr. Zhou has advised the Chinese government to stop asking students to wrap the students' books with plastics. And this is a desert area, as the red dot had showed. In the past, it was in the heart of the Silk Road, Asian Silk Road. But later, it became dry. And today it is a desert. We started a science expedition project this year, and we try to accumulate some data, basic data for future, because we found the increased rainfalls bring change to this area. So this is kind of a wisdom. Okay, Dr. Zhou,
You,
your turn.
yes, I would like to talk about focus on the Confucianism, or we call Ruism. And according to the tradition, mainly starting 2,500 years ago, and the Confucius and starting to focus on how people should behave, and there is 5 major virtues, and followed by all the is a great tradition, and in Chinese is 仁义礼智信, and we put all those under the ecological civilization, under the new civilization. Every virtue has its recent meaning inside, and for example, first of all, it tells people to love people, and also there is a very famous phrase in Chinese, in ancient China, called if you love a person, you should also love his birth on his house, and so which influence have quite broad influence over recent days, and people getting to know if you love people, you should also love the people's habitats. And second virtue is readiness. In today's readiness, with everybody knows is sustainable development, and they are all the major recent guidelines and principles should also closely followed, and we through all those Confucianism and principles, we find the right procedures, and we should the recent green entrepreneurs should follow, and all those people deeply followed those ancient principles will get very good understanding of recent ecological environmental request. And for example, like the Chinese pangolin, and according to the tradition, we should also respect. We should not earn money through the sacrifice of their lives, as well as their very important ecological function, and that is in the heart of traditional Confucianism.
Thank you, Dr. Zhou. That's excellent. Thank you very much indeed. We shall be coming back. There will be an opportunity for 2 rounds of questions and answers. So please, if you have those, if you could put those into the Q&A sections. But we now move to our second faith lens, and that's with Jayshree Balachander from the Green Pilgrimage, India. Jayshree is an old friend of ours, as are both Linda and Jinfeng. Jayshree worked for 15 years at the World Bank on social sector policy in a number of Asian and African countries. Before that, she worked for 12 years in the Indian Administrative Service, responsible for a variety of government development programs. She studied at Madras University and has a master's in public policy from Princeton University. She is currently pursuing her enduring interest in preserving and protecting sacred sites in India, and is director of the Green Pilgrimage Network, India. So Jayshree, over to you, and we look forward to hearing from you about the Hindu perspective on green entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Martin. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Oh, good, okay.
We can't see you, but we can hear you. But we gather that's all right.
I apologize for that because I'm just trying to pull up this, no, just give me a second. I think I have it. Oops.
If not, I can share your PowerPoint.
That'll be great. Would you do that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to point out that I've come to this topic rather late. In fact, at the end of my official career, and the only real qualification I have is that I really love this subject, and I'm doing it because I want to. And I want to thank Martin for giving me this opportunity to be involved in these exciting initiatives. I think they're important, and what really matters to me, certainly, and obviously to all of you who are at the seminar, webinar, actually. So anyway, so I'm trying to stick with the outline that Lorna had provided for us, which is giving you a brief overview of the concepts that are relevant to green entrepreneurship, and then highlighting 2 or 3 of them that sort of speak to what we should be doing as green entrepreneurs, and then discussing some examples that seem to embody these kinds of principles. The first, Hinduism itself, just to give you a brief introduction, it's based on a number of ancient scriptures created by sages of India, and there isn't really one book or one definitive description of what Hinduism is, and it's really expressed through some people like to call it a way of life, but it's expressed through everything that is done, and the beliefs and the systems that are the beliefs that are embodied in what Hindus are supposed to do, and it's expressed. You can understand it through not just the scriptures, but the rituals, the pilgrimages, the storytelling, and the kinds of things that Hindus sort of incorporate in their daily lives. Now, of these, but there are some recurring themes in all of these different mediums, and I think I've tried to pull out the key concepts that might be relevant for today's discussion. The first one is fundamental unity. The Hindu view is that the divine is embodied in every single thing in creation. It's not that God has just created these things, but that He Himself is embodied in each of these things that exist on the earth. Air, fire, water, planets, everything. They're all organs of God's body. That's the quote we have from the Puranas. And so humans are just a part of nature. They're just one more thing in creation, and they're not above the rest. And they actually have to. It's a kind of a mutual dynamic system, and people have to, or the entire order has to work with each other, so that it's a single cosmic order. And also it's reciprocal, and not just between humans, but between humans and all other everything else that's in existence. And forests and rivers are especially important in Hinduism. Many of these are deified, and they are even worshipped. I mean, some of you who may have visited India as tourists have probably seen the daily Ganga worship that has become quite famous in Kashi and Banaras, and quite popular as a tourist attraction. But basically, all natural phenomena are deified, and they are treated as part of the entire web of human life and of existence. The second key concept, so the first thing was just that we're all part of the same divine creation. The second concept is that there's a moral code by which we have to live. So anything that all our behavior has to be directed by a kind of a a thing that sustains and doesn't destroy or harm other things in the system. So all species are helped, and everything that we do sort of is beneficial both to us and to the things around us. So there are some definitions of Dharma, which is that it's a divine law, it's doing the right thing, it's something which ensures the welfare of all living beings, etc. So those people that require additional help, like the poor and the weak, animals in nature, all of these things are meant to be protected and preserved by the rest. So I think this is the same idea. Basically, we've said that the key things about Dharma is that it's behavior that ensures the good of everything in the system, and everybody is mutual. It is a mutual reinforcement of good outcomes. The third principle is ahimsa, which I think the Chinese, the Buddhists, it's a key principle of Buddhism as well, and it's non-harming. So anything that we do, which is, I mean, the prosperity is a legitimate goal, but it cannot be at the detriment of other things in the system, other beings, other parts of the whole ecology. Another concept is that of karma, which says that there's a circular kind of a cause and effect, where you go through these cycles where actions and deeds that have been performed have inevitable consequences. And so the implication of this is that there's a long-term perspective, and anything that you do now has implications for the future. So altruistic behavior, moderate consumption, etc. These are things that are good, because in the end, the consequences will be reaped. Again, it says that the human have to take responsibility for their actions, including those that affect the environment. And then apart from these these four principal concepts, you have certain ethical principles, which some of you might be familiar if you've done some yoga, because this is the theory part of the physical exercises. Before you begin the hatha yoga, usually these principles of satya, not truth, non-stealing, patience, non-coveting, and cleanliness, these are things that you're supposed to try and develop internally, so that you then become qualified to be a participant or a practitioner of yoga. And from the environmental perspective, satya, when you say the truth, then you are not trying to whitewash your or greenwash, as he says, by pretending that something is environmentally safe, which is not. So basically, truth in everything that in your business, so that you're not. That would be one way in which you would be embodying this ethical principle in green entrepreneurship. Non-stealing.
Jayshree, we have about another 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Okay, sure. Okay, then maybe we'll go through these very quickly. There's patience, so don't look for immediate reward. Non-coveting, which means, again, it has to do with consumption. You could, apply it to that. And cleanliness is to keep pollution out of your environment. So if we want to look at some of the main lessons for green entrepreneurship from Hinduism, I'd say dharmic enterprise. So we should be trying to create and run dharmic enterprises, which uphold dharma, which there's no relentless pursuit of financial gain. You have the non-harming principle. You have ethical profit. You have truthfulness and do no harm, and definitely the question of not consuming more than is necessary or balanced or good for for the environment. So all of those are the kinds of implications that you can draw from those principles. We thought we'll spend some time on the to see how, in fact, these principles are being embodied in some of the businesses that are currently running in India or even elsewhere. But I have picked mostly the Indian examples. There's this community called the Bishnois who live in a very in a desert area of in the Thar Desert in Rajasthan, and they in 1485 their guru developed 29 rules consistent with these concepts that we've discussed, and many of these rules relate to the environment, and there was a lot of destruction of the environment. There, a lot of cutting of trees and tree huggers. So this community, actually, the women hugged the trees that were being cut to prevent them from, to prevent their cutting. And they're actually more famous as tree huggers than Bishnois. And they practice water conservation and several of the other environmental friendly practices. Then some of you might have heard of AUROVILLE, which was founded by the mother, as she's known. She's in the 1960s, and she wanted to create a utopia of realized souls where not only where the common reality was properly understood and implemented, but it was also consistent with the fundamental unity principle, where everybody lives within the not the confines, but the let's say the principles of fair use of resources. There are a number of examples of waste recycling. I don't think this is true only. I mean, all over the world you see these, but it's very relevant that in India, where we have very poor waste management, we have more of these companies. I've just picked out one, Eco-Eclectic Tech, but I think there are half a dozen examples. Many of them are quite small, but in their areas, they've been very successful in reducing industrial waste going to landfills. And so that's a model that has been that's been quite useful. Then I have one called the Dabbawalas, and there are many interesting case studies and YouTube videos actually where they describe their work. And the thing about this is that they believe that serving food and delivering food to working people in Mumbai is actually a job that they're doing for their God. And so some of the excellence in work, in their work, seems to emanate from this belief that they are doing God's work. So that's an interesting concept.
One more minute, if I may, Jayshree, just
Sure.
one more minute.
All right. So I think you can go through these examples and ask me questions if any of you find any of these interesting. The Tata Group sort of embodies all of these principles we talked about. And the school lunch program has been very successful, which sort of, again, embodies this principle of sharing and being friendly. Well, finally, I'd say that, all of the religions actually do say the same thing, and how they all talk about the interconnectedness, the unity in diversity, and the non-harming and truthfulness and all that. These are such universal principles. So we each have to interpret this for ourselves and pick a way in which our work can embody these principles. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed. That's wonderful. And Pippa, can I just be clear? I see a lot of people asking whether the PowerPoints, the information will be available. Can we ensure that?
Yes, we can. I have Jayshree's PowerPoint that we've just seen, and if I could ask Linda to send me her one as well, that would be great. We can make those available.
No
Excellent.
problem. I will send you.
Thank you very much
shortly.
indeed. So now we come to the Laudato Si and green entrepreneurship, which really started this whole thing because of the question of Cardinal Turkson. And I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Lorna Gold, who, believe it or not, is now a member of FaithInvest, and I still get her name wrong. But Lorna joined us initially to develop the Laudato Si Green Entrepreneurship Program. She is an internationally known climate campaigner, author, advocate, and research professional with 2 decades of experience of working at a senior level in advocacy, leadership, and management in, I can never say this, the Irish Catholic Development Agency. And she is vice chair of the Global Catholic Climate Movement and lectures in climate justice and social policy in Maynooth University, Ireland. And she is the director of public engagement at FaithInvest. So Lorna is going to lead this, but joined by John Mundell. John is president and CEO and senior environmental consultant for Mundell and Associates, an earth science, environmental and water resources consultancy firm based in Indianapolis in the USA, a professional engineer, a licensed professional geologist, and a social entrepreneur with over 40 years of consulting experience on thousands of environmental projects throughout the world. These projects have involved the investigation and cleaning up of contamination from past industrial and commercial practices, the protection of drinking water supplies, and supporting sustainable efforts for large corporations. And John is founding member of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis Creation Care Team, formed in 2015, and moving ahead on the environmental activities of the diocese. He also participates in the Indianapolis Eastside Creation Care Network, a group of Christian churches focusing on environmental stewardship. So over to Lorna and to John.
Thank you very much, Martin. It really is a pleasure to be here and to have this opportunity to talk with and to discuss with those who have produced the other faith and traditions lenses for the Green Entrepreneurship MOOC. I'm going to share my screen now. So John and I are going to share our time this morning. I'm going to talk a bit about the holistic sense of the Catholic lens, and then John is going to share some of his experience as someone who tries to live this green entrepreneurship from a Catholic faith perspective in action. So the Catholic perspective on green entrepreneurship really grows out of a long tradition of teaching on social justice issues in the Catholic Church. Goes back 130 years. Catholic social teaching has always sometimes been called the Church's best kept secret, as it interprets the gospel and scriptures in light of the situation that humanity finds itself in at certain historical moments. If you think back over the past 40, 50 years, different popes have intervened with social teaching documents at different points in human history. If you think back to the 1960s, Pope Paul VI issued his encyclical Populorum Progressio on the progress of peoples, where he drew attention to the need for a more integral vision of human development to overcome the sense of unbridled economic growth that was happening at the time. And then in 1991, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, Saint Pope John Paul II issued Centesimus Annus, which was an examination of the need for business to adopt a positive approach rooted in the common good. And in our own times, we know that Pope Francis has made many interventions on the environmental crisis, the most famous of which was Laudato Si in 2015. And Laudato Si is an incredibly important document for many reasons. We cannot get into all the reasons just now. It's far-reaching in its condemnation of the current economic and social models, and sets out important pathways to start to address the critical issues we face today with a matter of urgency. At the very heart of Laudato Si, however, is not a condemnation of nature or of the world that we're in, but a celebration. Laudato Si, in fact, means praise be to God. It's a call to all Catholics and all people living on the planet to recognise our responsibility to care for our common home. This assertion that we are all called to be protectors of the earth, of God's handiwork, and that this is an integral part of our Christian vocation is the most important point in Laudato Si. For too long, this has been, and in many places could still be seen as, something extraneous to Catholicism. And yet here Pope Francis puts the integrity of creation and this as an integral part of the Christian vocation front and centre. And in fact, I could probably stop here because I really think this is the most important point that Pope Francis makes in Laudato Si, in placing the care for creation at the centre of our vocation as Christians. But Pope Francis does not mince his words in describing what's happening to our world in Laudato Si. He articulates what many of us can see around us. Our world is looking like a dump site. Due to the economic system that we've created, which hides the impact of our consumption and our production, we are actually, sometimes unwittingly, destroying the planet. All Catholic social teaching follows the same pattern of see, judge, and act. In seeing, Catholics are called to look at the signs of our times, to understand the facts of the situation with reference to science and reason, particularly the situation facing the poorest and the most vulnerable. In judging, Catholics are called to discern what our faith says in light of this situation, and in acting, Catholics are invited to understand how they can actively respond to the social context. The signs of the times outlined in Laudato Si and in subsequent teachings of Pope Francis, for example, in light of the COVID crisis and the COVID Commission he established, point to a dramatic systemic failure. The Catholic perspective, therefore, points to the need not to tinker about with the current economic and social model, but to propose a new paradigm, which is in sync with nature and human needs, and integrates different ways of being and thinking. The urgent crises of climate change, ecological destruction, and COVID have cast light on the many failings of mainstream economic and social thinking and practice. There is growing interest in the more holistic understandings of economy, such as donut economics, which embed business and economic life within ecological limits and human needs. There is urgent need for a transition of paradigm, which brings us within those ecological limits. And the new paradigm which Pope Francis alludes to in Laudato Si is very much in tune with the model of economy within the 7 ecological limits outlined by Kate Raworth and the School of Thinking on Economic Thinking emerging through the donut economy. It's a model which places economic action within the parameters of the 7 ecological limits. The systemic failure of the current economy requires us to embrace these entirely new ways of thinking about our relationship with economy and nature, which overturns decades, if not centuries, of thinking and led to a continuous extraction of the economy.
Can I just say 5 minutes, Lorna, 5 minutes?
Yeah. This new focus on paradigm shift complements the Church's long history of social teaching on the role of individuals in business to act responsibly in favour of the common good. In particular, since Centesimus Annus, the Catholic business world has played an important role in understanding business life as a vocation to serve the common good. In particular, it places emphasis on the social role that business plays, not just as a means to an end, but as the fulcrum of social relationships, of community, where people find meaning in work. The importance of meaningful, dignified work is a central theme in Catholic social thought, and many Catholic business networks exist to put this into practice. A key challenge for the Catholic Church today, which this course, Green Entrepreneurship, helps to address, is how to integrate thinking on mission, business, money, and how that converts into a wider responsibility towards our earth. Whilst Laudato Si has arguably excited much interest and discussion worldwide, more than any other papal teaching, it has arguably underperformed in terms of actual impact within the Catholic Church. Thankfully, this has now been addressed, and there is a need to generate new green social enterprises, which specifically geared at supporting the Catholic Church and wider Christian churches to address long-term plans to become green, and in Catholic Church's case, to embrace Laudato Si. This requires a continued ecological conversion and continued environmental formation that provides a basis for upskilling Catholic communities across the world. And the Laudato Si MOOC and on the Catholic lens on green entrepreneurship is a start in this direction, and one that surely we can build on into the future. And in fact, with FaithInvest, we have great plans in the coming years to build on this programme and to put in place a Laudato Si entrepreneurship programme, which will truly support the Catholic Church in the implementation of green entrepreneurship. So to finally finish from me, before handing over to John, just to say that as the world continues to reel from COVID-19 and climate change, we are all being challenged to recommit ourselves to protecting the earth for the future generations. Many young people are fighting hard for their future in the ways that they know best. Now is the time, I would say, for entrepreneurs everywhere inspired by faith to apply that same passion to solving the environmental and social problems we face today. And I'd now like to hand to John Mundell, who's a great friend of mine and is somebody who can talk very much about how you do this in practice.
Thank you, Lorna. Here,
John, we have about 3 minutes, I'm afraid. 3 minutes to go.
Okay. Well, we'll do the best we can. I want to talk just briefly about, hey, is this all possible? You know, can we actually do this kind of run these green businesses and be successful? And I'm here to tell you that we can, because I have an environmental business that has 25 years of history of trying to live this both social mission and green mission together. We're part of a group called the Economy of Communion that we really focus on trying to build a more just and sustainable economy. There are about 850 businesses worldwide. Some are green businesses, like tourist businesses that that are into fair trade tourism. Others take people and incorporate them in the businesses. At-risk youth that produce high-end goods out of recycled products. We're scientists and engineers trying to clean up pollution, and over the last 25 years, we've managed to clean up and work on 1,500 sites across the United States and on 3 continents. But really our focus is on relationships. Profit isn't at the center of what we do. People are at the center. And so relationships are important. These relationships with not only the local community, relationships within the business, with the local community, but also the global community. And we see ourselves set in each of our local communities and as relationship builders and community builders. We focus on our facilities that look at recycling, energy use, trying to walk the walk and talk the talk. We plant trees. We planted 49 trees since Laudato Si 5 years ago to kind of be symbols of the community. We focus on internal relationships with our employees through various activities. we focus on trying to instill values, because not all these businesses are going to have employees that understand the mission, and so it takes time to kind of get these values incorporated into the work we do. We involve ourselves in local communities in various aspects, from tree plantings to community projects to help encourage protection and care for the earth. This includes things like Earth Day events, teaching kids about the work we do. It encourages us to work with underserved places like urban schools that don't have environmental curriculums. We get out in the community and clean up and rehab houses many times with our free time. We've started businesses like Project Leah that provided transitional employment to women coming out of prison, and they do that with repurposed materials. Other projects we've had, and also supporting the Catholic Church in its green mission. The last thing I say is we've focused on an international internship program. 70 interns over the last 14 years from 15 countries have come to learn about green entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. They've come from all walks of life: engineers, economists, communication specialists. They've done projects in our communities. They've cleaned up harbors. They've put together business plans to start their own businesses when they return. So really, that's in a 3-minute nutshell. The bottom line is that the program we're about ready to start, it is possible. This isn't a theoretical thing that is possible. It has happened. We've seen it happen, and I'm excited to see this program launch.
John, can I ask you for one more minute where you tell us where your vision for doing this has come from?
Really, my vision of where this has come from the Catholic perspective of this economy of communion, this idea that we are all connected. We heard this earlier in the presentation, that we are looking, this basis that underlying everything, there's a sense of communion that connects us all, and that everything in our world is a gift. And so that is part of Catholic social teaching, but it's also part of this economy of communion network. I'm part of that network. I'm on the International Commission, but that network focuses on the human person and the part of our faith that focuses on relationships and the living out of the faith in the day-to-day context.
John, thank you very much indeed. And sorry we are being tight today. What I'm going to do is we're going to combine this Q&A slot with the final one. So this enables us to go straight to Jamison Ervin from UNDP. And really, this is all Jamie's fault. So I hope she's going to take responsibility for it. But Jamison Ervin is manager of the Global Program on Nature for Development. She's worked with UNDP since 2008. Previously, she worked with the Nature Conservancy in the USA, World Wildlife Fund for Nature, and the Forest Stewardship Council, which she helped establish, one of the most successful sort of entrepreneurial approaches towards business and environment. She holds a PhD in natural resources from the University of Vermont, a master's degree in international administration from the School for International Training, and a bachelor's degree in anthropology from Bates College. Jamie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Martin. And I'm going to share my screen. I hope that you can see it. Please let me know if
we can see.
Super, wonderful. So what I'd like to do is just first give an overview of Learning for Nature, which is our platform, and then dive into the content of Green Entrepreneurship. So a few words about the platform, which is learningfornature.org. This is a site that we created about 2 years ago, and in those 2 years, we already have more than 23,000 learners. We have created over 100 learning opportunities, and we also have a dynamic forum where learners are exchanging ideas. We have close to 9,000 forum engagements between learners. We offer standalone courses that people can take on their own time. They can enroll, they can go through it. We also offer the massive open online course which is everyone taking it at the same time and learning from each other. And once the MOOC is over, it then becomes a standalone course. We have about 35 of these courses, but they're not the only thing that we offer. We also offer webinars in case you just want to sit back and watch and learn. And for those who like to listen, you can also listen to podcasts. We also offer Google Earth Stories. It's a great way to illustrate a case study or just a short vignette. It really is an immersive environment where you fly in, you zoom into a place, you read, and then it links back to some more things that you can explore. One of our latest offerings is a virtual event. I think early on during COVID, I was in Italy when things started going down, and we said we really have to pivot our entire year and perhaps the next 2 years, perhaps more, to a virtual environment. So we created a space for virtual events. Just to give you a snapshot of our latest, this was Nature for Life. This was a 4-day event covering 325 presenters, of which, Martin, you were one of them. And we found that we were able to reach an audience that we could never have imagined. We reached more than 500 million views of the hashtag Nature for Life in just 1 month. So, and we reached 150,000 watching at least one of these sessions. Now, a little bit more about the platform. This is sort of like a Facebook for learning around nature. So you can create your own profile. You can send mail to others. You can connect with people. This is my profile. You'll see the courses that I'm taking, or I can see them. You can find people. So we now have 23,000 learners. If you want to find people by their organization or their name or their country, or you want to find Spanish speakers, you can do that. One of the latest things I'm really excited about is that you can create a group. So if you're associated with a number of people and you want to learn together, you can form your own public or private group. And here you can see this is in the group for spatial planning. It's a public group, and you can see who the members are. You can have a discussion amongst yourselves. You can share photos, ideas. This is a learning space that people can create on their own. Now, about the course itself. The course is Green Entrepreneurship. We're really excited about this course. It's the first time we're offering it. The premise, before I go any further, is that Green Entrepreneurship is underlined by 4 kind of theories of change. The first is that nature underpins sustainable development. Working with nature and nature-positive, nature-friendly businesses helps achieve sustainable development much more broadly. That many national economies depend on the informal sector. 80% of employment in India is through the informal sector in non-agricultural fields. Entrepreneurship is accessible to many. If you have a good idea, you can be an entrepreneur. And green businesses catalyze the kinds of systemic change that we need to see. The course has 6 lessons over a 6-week period. You can explore the course yourself, but just to give you a sense that these are basically starting with a green idea, understanding how to shape it, understanding your customers, how to look at your green idea in context of the world around you, how to finance it, and how to manage and scale up and communicate it. Each lesson has some common elements. The first is a set of objectives, and you walk through the lesson. It has a quiz. Second is a series of lectures. We have 32 lectures across 6 weeks. The third is a set of worksheets. This is a chance to try out what you've learned and experiment with some of the ideas with your own thinking. We have case studies. I think we now have somewhere around 35 case studies. We encourage people to pick one of these 6 group workspaces to learn more about their particular idea. And finally, we have a discussion forum. If people want to talk about what they've learned, they can add in their own ideas. So here's a sneak preview of the course.
5 minutes, Jamie, 5 minutes, if I may.
Yep, don't worry, I'll be done. It's a kind of click to learn environment where you can click or you can compare and things pop up. It's a very immersive environment. It's colorful, it's bright, it's fun. And as you take the course, you can sort of see where you are. So here you are in trends, for example. Now we come to the lenses. So as you walk through the course, you get a lot of theory, some case studies, lectures, And then we look at a lens. So with faith lens, we look at, as you've seen, 3 perspectives. We have the Catholic perspective, and you can dive deep into, okay, what did this course tell us? And what does a Catholic perspective tell us about the current economic model? You can see the Hindu perspective and the same idea. What are the key ideas that inform the thinking behind this lesson? Fundamentally, unity. And then the Chinese traditions perspective. And again, you can dig deeper and understand, what does this tell us about what we've learned? We have a youth lens that help explore how youth can be involved. And we also have a gender lens. We have a number of partners in this particular massive open online course, of course, including FaithInvest, but also including Fordham and Seed and the European Union and others. Learningfornature.org is where you can go to access this course and all of the others. It's free. It's open. Just 2 words about the future. This is an English only for now, which is unusual for us. We're doing it, I won't say as a pilot, but we're expecting around 2,000 learners, which is on average for us. But we want to learn from this process, and we want to relaunch it next year with at least Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And then we hope to have many more ideas, many more case studies, and that we expect to have a much broader audience. Martin, back over to you.
Jamie, thank you very much indeed, Jamie. Most grateful, and I know there are already questions coming in for you when we get to that. And our final speaker is Alison Prout from the International Network on Conservation and Religion. And Alison has 20 years of experience working in faith-motivated charitable sector, the early parts of which were spent designing and leading programs for faith groups on economic justice and environmental issues, the latter part of which was a leadership role, particularly just before she joined as the director of INCR last year. She was the interim executive director of the Ecumenical Centre for Corporate Responsibility in the UK. Alison also helped create the long-term plan in 2009 for the Quakers. Alison, over to you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everybody. It's lovely to have an opportunity to talk to you now. I'm going to share my screen and give you just a little bit of a taster of the Faith Long-Term Plan programme and try to answer some key questions, most pertinent of which is why create this programme now, and what is it, and why on earth would I be talking about it in a webinar to do with faith, to do with green entrepreneurship. Some of you, I recognise your names and therefore are familiar with the long-term plan programme that was run in 2009. This is a reinvention of a hugely successful programme that Martin pioneered back alongside UNDP back in 2009. Why are we doing it now? We are doing it now because the next decade is crucial. We all know about the need to accelerate action on SDGs to reach the goals by 2030. And we want to ensure that there is a programme that is utterly led by and responding to faith needs for faith groups to participate in. I'm using a quote that Martin often uses when he talks about this, and for our Chinese colleagues this will be more familiar than others. But this the Faith Long-Term Programmes is a framework that's created to give faith communities the opportunity to step away from the invitations to condemn something or to make a statement, and actually to have the spotlight on what they're actually doing. And the way we're doing that is asking groups to look at the entirety of their operations. And this was where it'll become clear to you why we thought this would be interesting to talk about within the framework of green entrepreneurship. We know that faiths are incredibly active and doing a lot of work protecting nature and running environmental projects, but perhaps that might not be in the most structured way, or it might need or could benefit from external input. We're asking groups right now to think about whether they could commit to creating a faith long-term plan. And a faith long-term plan can be at a time frame that suits you, but most people are looking at sort of 7 to 10 years. And within that plan, we're asking you to look at the entirety of your operations. So faith consistent use of assets, in which we include things like water, forestry, financial assets, looking at your media and advocacy activities, partnerships, education, celebration, wisdom, theology, and lifestyles. Martin, you...
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, that's quite a long time. Thank you. And to put together a plan that that addresses all of those issues. Some groups who have already committed to participating, and some who might be considering it, would be reassured to know that there isn't you don't necessarily need to address all of these issues. For example, we have some faith-motivated financial institutions that want to create a long-term plan that responds to their financial faith consistent use of financial assets. Likewise, educational establishments, although of course education establishments think that they might just only want to talk about curricula, etc., but then they realize that they own buildings, they buy food, they have energy use, they have occasions, celebrations, etc. So the idea behind this is to think broadly around all areas of faith activity. I'm going to give you a really, really quick idea of how we expect it to play out. At the moment, we are in the autumn. We're asking groups to plan, discuss, agree, think about their partnerships, and to let us know that they want to participate in this programme. Over winter and early spring 2021, we will be running a programme of specific webinars addressing each of the key areas that I outlined in my previous slide. And I'm going to ask Pippa to helpfully pop in the chat the programme of webinars, just in case anybody is interested. We're hoping that groups will design their plan and will start to think about the technical assistance that it might need in delivering it. And then in spring, summer 2021, to have something that they can share with us. This is really intended to give us the opportunity to think about where there might be external input that would help, and to help you, the plan creators, to look at how realistic you're being, and is this as deliverable as it can be. In the summer and autumn of 2021, we're launching the plans, and we want to engage in as much advocacy as possible. We recognise that part of the importance and impact of these plans will be brought about through internal advocacy and bringing your faith group along with you. We are undertaking this programme of work in partnership with the UK government as part of their civil society programme for COP 2026. You'll notice that there's a big gap between autumn next year and 2030, but that doesn't mean that nothing's happening. In that time, we are hoping that these plans will be delivered. We are looking to set up working groups to support groups who have shared interests, perhaps around an issue such as tree growing and forest protection, and to look to see whether there's new structures, initiatives, or partnerships that might support them.
Alison, thank you very much indeed. Very grateful for that run through. We have now about 10 minutes for questions and answers, and I see that we already have some in there, so if I might pass them on. From Dr. Koka, please comment upon experiences of empowering the younger generation to make appropriate choices based on lessons learned from business economy and so forth. I wonder, Jamie, could you perhaps address that in terms of what you've seen through UNDP? What actually works? What does engage young people? What empowers them?
we had an opportunity through the Nature for Life experience with the event to partner with Nature for Youth. And I really was overwhelmed with their creativity, with their can-do attitude. I think that they, more than any other generation right now, really understands the importance of reversing the trajectory that we're on. So tapping into that incredible goodwill and their digital experience, their ability to create a video, their ability to be on TikTok or be on these social platforms that gather large audiences. They're just so much more with it in terms of how to engage potential customers, that I think that this is one of their strengths. We want to use this mass open online course to learn more from youth and from faith leaders and from women to see really what does work.
Thank you, Jamie. A further question, which I think I very much like Jayshree and perhaps Linda and Jinfeng's response to. Joining all our faiths in green entrepreneurship, can we still have the timeline, or the time, I suppose, to preserve our declining Mother Earth with a holistic approach? Perhaps we could start with Jayshree and then go to Linda and Jinfeng.
Martin, I think there was a comment here saying that the faiths have to come together to do something to get our COP20 implemented, because I think our strength might lie in our cooperation, because we are all saying the same thing. It seems, I mean, it is clearly a very sort of serious situation, but that might be the way to go.
Thank you very much indeed, Jayshree. Jinfeng, Dr. Zhou.
Yeah, yes. All problems we face today are caused by people, so by human. And we believe if human-based solution, if we, especially for young generation, if we have all young generation participation, and we can reverse the situation, we can get things improved and eventually get our habitats last. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Lorna or John, do you want to contribute to this?
On the question of do we still have time, time is running out.
Something that worries you deeply.
Yeah,
so
it worries me very deeply. I mean, I think any of us who look to the next generation, you have to be very concerned if you know the science and the trends that we're on. But I think that we need to remain hopeful, and we need to apply ourselves to redoubling our efforts in this area. And maybe if as time's tight, I might take a stab at the next one there, if that, while I've got the microphone, which is on from Metropolitan Seraphim, asking about these ecological initiatives are important, but do we not need to do something more as a faith community in terms of advocacy, in terms of, in a sense, coming together as campaigning to raise our voices? I would say that it's not mutually exclusive, and that given the tight timelines that we face and the sheer scale of the issues, we need to be doing both. Traditionally, faiths have been very vocal in terms of issuing declarations of support and to change policies, pressuring, but that has not worked. So I think there's a much more pragmatic approach now, which is the approach that FaithInvest has taken very much, that we need to be stakeholders in this effort and apply what we believe in practice. It always shocks me that 80% of the people on the planet subscribed to one of the major faith groups, which all say that we should care for our earth. And yet that's not reflected in how we go about our business largely, or how we practice our politics and our policies. So there's a huge job to do. And the more we can collaborate in raising these issues, the more we can move forward in making sure that ecological civilization, integral ecology, Dharma is mainstream in how we think about running businesses and how we practice our politics.
Thank you, Laura. John, what a brief comment from you, perhaps?
I think I agree with Lorna. I think one of the things that the beauty we have with the faith in this time is that a lot of the young people are challenging their faith, is sometimes not being as relevant. I know in the Catholic tradition here in the United States, that's the case, but many of them have experienced this idea of a green church, of a church that is willing to stake its beliefs in reality is encouraging, and there I sense a new enthusiasm among the young people to challenge the church to step up and do something. And so it's an opportunity for us to live our faith and to revitalize the churches that so much is needed today.
Thank you. Two more questions, and then I'm afraid we must end. And I think I'm going to throw the first one to Jamie, which is a very interesting question. Don't we need to focus on a few key issues and solve those rather than, and this is from Anke, rather than get distracted and entangled in business? I suppose it's a question as, do you honestly think that business will get us out of this?
A couple of responses. One is the Sustainable Development Goals are indivisible. You can't tackle one without tackling all of them. You can't think about poverty without thinking about restoration of natural ecosystems, for example. It's just that they're like this. So solutions need to be multifaceted. Business as usual practices and finance as usual is the leading driver for the destruction of Earth. So the market failures and the policy failures that allow you to clear cut a primary rainforest, put one head of cattle per hectare, is profitable in the marketplace. And therefore, without tackling business, we will fail. And green businesses are a great disruptor. They're a great way of changing our thinking about what's possible. So for example, plant-based meat alternatives, that's an incredible innovation that's come about and is transforming how people eat. So my belief is businesses have to be part of the solution. And a MOOC on green businesses is very modest, but it is a vehicle for change.
Excellent. Thank you, Jamie. And I think this question to Jamie and perhaps to Linda, why is the faith dimension so important to both of you? Why, Jamie, is it important to you and UNDP? And Linda, and perhaps Jinfeng, why, given you're a secular body, why is the faith and culture dimension important? So perhaps we could ask Linda and Jinfeng, first of all, why for CBC GDF is it important to work with faith and culture?
Right.
Yes, please, Linda.
Because it has a deep root and it is deeply rooted in our characteristics and everyday behavior. For example, not to waste food. This is some value in any traditional Chinese religious as well as thoughts. Even today, we can see that facing the climate change and biodiversity loss, we really need to get back to our tradition. And here I would also want to get back to your previous question about the holistic way. Today, many very good cases has been given. But I would like to mention one thing, that is we need to synchronize, we need to promote synergies between the climate change and biodiversity conservation actions. For example, planting trees, not always good. If the single species of planting trees in not good places, it could be an ecological disaster. Here we have an example. Back 3 years ago, in the wetland of Yangtze River, there's a Dongping wetland. It was deeply harmed by an invasive species tree, and more than 2 million trees were ordered to root out, to remove, because they destroy the wetland ecology. So when we do planning, we do good things in goodwill, like green entrepreneurship. We need to think in a holistic way to make sure this can be sustainable.
Thank you, thank you. And the final word, highly appropriately to Jamie, why is the faith lens important to you and to UNDP in this context?
I think it's a single word. It comes down to alignment. To be able to align your values with what you do in life, to be able to align, just as we need to align our pension funds or our savings or our purchases with our values, we need to align what we do in work. And faith provides the ability for many, many people to align what they do with their values.
Jamie, succinct, spot on, and absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all of you who participated today from all around the world, those of you who have got up early, those of you who've stayed up late. Please join in the MOOC. It starts on the 2nd of November, next week. Thank you all very much indeed, and it's been a great honor and delight for FaithInvest to host this. Take care. Goodbye.